hello everybody. This is Charles Harper, and it's another episode of Creator Chronicles. And I am talking to someone I've known over the course of the years. Her name is Sharyn Sheldon, and she is the content creator and probably the lead creator over at Content Sparks. And we're going to talk to her about product creation. And Sharyn, good to have you.
Good to be here.
Now, I've been looking at some of the stuff you've been doing online, Sharyn, obviously over the last couple of years, but I understand that you kind of brought to this, you came from instructional design and corporate content. What was, when you say instructional design, what was that? Was that something that you did kind of professionally, and then you left there to come to this, or what was your background like?
Well, I got into instructional design in a kind of roundabout manner. I had started out actually in investment banking, which was not a personality fit for me. I started in that after business school and getting my MBA. And I found that I absolutely hated the environment and had to do a whole reassessment of what I enjoyed, which was really learning. And I discovered this field of instructional design, which I didn't even know existed, and and it was kind of coming into its own at that point in strategy. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold I'm fighting off.
Yeah, no worries. Everybody is.
Well, it's freezing cold outside here. So I found this field, the whole learning and development field was becoming a strategic part of business where companies were seeing that they needed to integrate the training side of business in with strategy and change management and any sort of corporate endeavors going on. And I got into a firm, a consulting firm, where I learned this instructional design on the job, and what they called it was designing learning solutions. So basically what we were doing is working with typically the learning and development sections or divisions of a company to help them design a learning solution, so some sort of training program and all the bits and pieces that go with it to help achieve some sort of result that they were looking for, whatever their current situation was. So often that was, they were doing a new push with new salespeople. So they needed to look at what were the key things going on and what the new people needed to learn, and then around that what the managers needed to learn and what resources they needed. So that's what instructional design basically is.
So at some point you found out that individuals needed the same kind of either content or needed the same kind of material. What was it that caused you to see that? And then what was the kind of the process where you decided, okay, I'm going to go forward and start providing people with this stuff?
Well, I had done this working with the corporations for a number of years. I guess it was, by the time I'd been in it for maybe 15 years or so, there was a lot of ups and downs. I was working as an independent consultant by that point, and the business is as an independent consultant, very up and down. I decided I wanted to do something myself. And the whole online world, internet marketing was very popular at the time. So I got into that, taught myself all the basics, and somehow discovered this stuff called PLR, private label rights. I'd never heard of anything like it before. Nobody outside of internet marketing knows what this stuff is.
Right, yeah.
and I learned a little bit from some of the people who were already established in the business and did a little bit of this and that. I was focusing on business topics because that's what I knew.
Yep.
And somehow, I can't even remember now, I had decided that I didn't want to be just another PLR person.
Right.
So I went back and looked at my roots in the whole learning and training and said, well, maybe this is the route I can take. And I gave it a little try with one thing, and it went down really well. And I started to attract people like coaches and consultants who needed this. So I just discovered it. It was part of the evolution of my business and the customers. And at the same time, the whole internet marketing world has been evolving to focus more and more on people getting results, people learning. Now
Right.
everything is about online courses. Well, how do you create an online course? For most people, they're sitting there saying, oh my God, what do I have to do? I start from
Right.
scratch. I've got to design this and that. And they don't have the skills to do that. It's so much easier if I have it already created. So I know the market's there. PLR people already know what this stuff is. So my challenge has been having to educate the other people, the huge market out there who can benefit from this. So
Right. No, that's fantastic. Um, so I want you to tell me a little bit about maybe the first time that you kind of released something, or those first couple of things. What was the thought process behind that? So obviously you found out that coaches and other folks needed this content because they didn't know how to create a course.
mhm.
So you launched something. Can you tell me about the first time or the first couple of times that you launched? What was it? And you said it went down pretty well. What was that went down pretty well?
Well, my very first ones were just the standard packs of articles that people do with PLR, but I added these checklists to them so that when people use them, my customers use them with their customers, they could start to see results. So that was my first evolution, my first step towards the courses. And I did that the traditional way, an ad on the Warrior Forum,
Yep.
first with some freebies to get people on my list, then my first ads, doing it really cheaply. And when I decided to move to doing something bigger with slides and workbooks and stuff like that, I used JVZoo. And I did it in the upsell, that kind of process where I
Yep. Yep.
created the
Sure.
basic really cheaply, then did the upsell. And because I had managed to get a couple affiliates on board, it did really, really well. And then I connected with a couple more affiliates, and people referred me from one to the other, did some special offers just for specific affiliates, and that's when things really took off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, you're more advanced now. You've been in this for a little while. In terms of finding the people that actually want your content and want your product, what's your process now? Are you a little more active? I know you're active on social media.
Mhm.
What do you rely on primarily to find the people who are interested in your kind of content?
I've started experimenting. Well, there are two sides to it. I focus partly on selling more to my current customers because I
Yep.
get new customers in still through current affiliates. And I started a Facebook group so that I could have more visibility with my customers, and I do a lot of email marketing with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started experimenting with Facebook ads, which have been kind of interesting. So I'm able to reach brand new people that way. And this has been very tricky because, as I said, people outside of my current circle and customers have no clue what this stuff is.
Right, right, yeah.
So it's one of the hardest sells to do that. It's actually not something I'd necessarily recommend. The easiest sell is to a customer because they already know you, they've already purchased, they know what you have and the quality. And then there's people who know they have a need and they understand what the solutions are, so they're looking at evaluating your solution. There's people that have recognize that they have a problem but don't know what solutions are available.
Yep, yep,
And then
yep.
there's the people who don't really realize they have a problem or that there's a
Mhm.
solution. I'm unfortunately more in that category when I'm looking for brand new customers. So the Facebook ad kind of formula I've been using, or that I've tried first, is focusing on one thing that I know they need that they can use with their customers to get them in the door, and then start educating them on what else they can do with this.
Right. No, that's cool. Now, you obviously make strategic decisions about what you're going to release and what
Mhm.
you're not going to release. How do you think through that process, Sharon?
It's a combination, and not everything does well. So it's lucky I release a lot of stuff, but not everything does well. The ones that do best when I'm figuring out topics are based on current customer requests and
Yep.
things that they're always asking me for, asking about. So that's a big area, but can be risky also because the most vocal customers don't necessarily represent the majority. So I've
Hmm.
got
That's
myself
right.
into trouble a
That's
little
right.
bit
That's right.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, we all do. Yeah.
But then I keep track of what's hot in the market. But at the same time, I look at what can be evergreen because I want to have stuff that's out there for a while and
Hmm.
that my customers can have out there for a while. So if I sell something, I've really pulled away from social media a lot because it changes so
It
frequently.
does.
I
Right.
can do
Yeah.
something on Facebook or Facebook ads and the next day it can change.
Yep.
And then not only am I in trouble because I have to update everything, but then anyone who's purchased it needs to upgrade,
Right.
to update.
Right.
So it's a lot of work. So I let other people deal with that. I don't have to do everything. But and I also look at what's worked well in the past. So I'll look at my sales, what things have been most popular, and then what's missing. So if I'm looking, because I'm focused also on the learning, and people have asked me a lot about how to put together a curriculum or a series and how one thing works with another, I'll look at what's sold well, and maybe there's a certain component in one of those topics that's missing, and then I'll figure out some way of filling that gap.
That's sort of interesting. Now you say that I think that everybody experiences that where some things do well and some things don't. There's always been this theory, at least among some of the I guess more prolific product creators, that you have to kind of build the snowball where you've got this mass of products so that you're kind of hedged against those that don't necessarily do well. However, that does take time and effort. Where do you fall on that? Do you think now that the game is still that if you're going to get into product creation, that you have to produce a lot of them and just live with the fact that some are going to do well and some are not, or do you just have to do the best you can at getting it right every time?
Um, well, I think it's a combination of both. You want to have a lot of products out there because that's the way your income is going to grow. But you also want all of them to do well. Or, okay, sorry, that's not so easy. I've never had a complete flop, but that's mainly because I am listening to my customers. So
Right.
I want to have pretty good confidence that something's going to do well. Now I know in advance that certain topics aren't going to do as well, but I'm doing them because they fill a gap. They fill a
Right.
need. So something a little bit more specialized. And I know that further down the line, they may do better as my customers progress. So, for instance, I did a course recently on gamification, and
Hmm.
that's a little too advanced for some of my customers. But I
Sure.
know that as they use some of my more basic stuff, they start looking for the more advanced. So I'm always trying to plan ahead, and I know that, one product may not do as well now, but it will do further along the line and keep having sales.
No, that's a very interesting topic. I've been looking at how to do that, on WordPress and how to use plugins, and a lot of people are sort of getting the concept. But you're right. You talked earlier about some things take not only educating the customer, but also kind of educating the market that okay, well this is coming. You need to be ready for this, but they just may not be there yet. But you kind of want to be there when they are.
Right, exactly. And, I'm learning from all of these as well. And I try and, if something doesn't do as well, I look at how I can change it or market it differently because maybe I knew there was a need, but I didn't present it as well as I could have or educated people as well. So, further down the line, maybe in 6 months or a year, so long as it's up to date, I'll look at educating people a little more on that and doing some different marketing approach to it.
Yeah, no, right on. Now you just talked about the fact that you're sort of learning Facebook ads and social media. What's been the most I'd say the most significant thing or the thing that you've learned or that you've done that made the biggest impact on where your business is now. So you came into this,
Hmm.
you came from corporate, you learned the internet marketing side, you've been able to get into that cycle of creating products, but now you've kind of grown to a point where you have a following. What was the most significant thing that you did to kind of make that jump?
Well, as you probably know, I did a major rebranding last year. It's a
Yep.
little over a year ago now, and that was a huge change in my business because I used to be business content PLR, which is not a brand. I think I picked that based on the traditional keyword research. You're
Sure.
supposed to pick a keyword that people are searching for and then name your business after that and get the URL. And that's not really a lasting business that way anymore.
Hmm.
I think my belief is you have to have a brand that people can remember that represents who you are, what your promise is, what you stand for. So I went through a big process of figuring all of that out. I worked with a consultant on that and came up with content sparks because I'm doing the content that I'm providing people, but it's supposed to spark your creativity and spark your profits and grow your business. So it was a combination of the two. And I changed my logo, my whole look, tagline. So and I focused who it was for a little bit more, who my best
Hmm.
target market was. So that was
Hmm.
a major change, not just for my having a brand, but just for me too, having the confidence that it's something I can be proud of, that's not a commodity that everybody out there is selling, but a true long-term business and brand that can grow in various directions. So that was a major change that I made that will continue to impact the different things in my business as I grow as well.
Right, right, right. So somebody's coming to the area of product creation. Obviously, not everybody's going to do PLR,
Hmm.
but as you said, learning online, it's not. I mean, there's nothing but upside in terms of what people are going to be doing. If you are an information product creator and you are new, Sharon, what should you be doing? You're starting to get your feet wet. You're starting to consider what your niche might be. What do you think the first step should be before you actually get out there and launch now?
Well, what I always tell all my customers, because they often come in and say, okay, great, here's a product now, how do I sell it? Well, you don't start with the product, you start with who your market is. So that is the absolute most critical thing that you have to do is sit and say, okay, who am I going to be marketing to? Who's my ideal customer? What are their needs? What are their biggest problems, dreams, pain points? And where can I help them best? So if you start from that, then you can say, okay, well, how can I help them? Where are my strengths? Where can I add unique value? It doesn't have to be something different from everyone else out there. No, I wasn't the first person to do PLR. I
Hmm.
wasn't at all. I just looked at where I could add value and do something very different and help people in a different way. So, and I'm always doing that because unfortunately sometimes people copy what I do and then I have to, yeah, it's just the way it
It
goes.
happens, right?
And then I
Yeah.
have to figure out, okay, now what do I do differently that they can't necessarily do? So that's where people make the biggest mistake when they don't do that, when they're just thinking, okay, I want to create an info product and get it out there. That's not a business. Your business is the market who you're serving and how you're going to help them solve different problems. Then you create your products. Then you say, okay, where are they starting? Where do they need to get to? How do I teach them? How do I help them? And that's your product. You see what I
No,
mean?
that's fantastic. Now I know as of now, April 2016, one of the things I've been talking to people about is even with people that they're consulting with is in terms of getting started, creating the kind of traffic and creating the kind of I guess audience that they want is to start doing interviews. And I know that you have something that you are doing for folks who kind of want to either start coaching people in that way or to start thinking about how to do this whole interview world. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
You mean the product that I just did, that I just
Yeah.
released? Yeah, that's a whole course on how to identify different, say, influencers, as they call them, people in the market who are considered experts that a lot of people follow, and then build a relationship with them, start connecting with them, then asking for an interview, interviewing them in some way, like we're doing now, and then using that content and getting it out there. And people have built whole businesses just on interviewing and have gone
Right.
on from there. Like who am I thinking of?
Andrew Warner and all
If
these
you're one of
guys. Yeah.
David Siteman Garland,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
started with that. He started doing the interviews, and then I think he was interviewing top people in the market or
Yep.
internet marketing maybe.
Internet marketers.
Yeah,
That's right.
internet
Yep.
marketers. I think he was called The Rise to the Top. Does that sound familiar?
Yep. Yep.
And
Rise to the
and
top.
then he came out with his first course, which was on how to build a business around
Right.
interviewing, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
he learned as he went. But and then of course there's all the talk show hosts and people that just, they don't know all these fields. They're just interviewing the experts. That's what Oprah does,
Right.
right? So the product that I did is all about how to start doing those sorts of interviews and doing the content. And to do that, you again have to go back and figure out what market you're serving. So I just have to drive that point home one more time. You have to know your market, who you're
But
serving.
a person could get this, Sharon, and then they could do, let's say they could do a workshop on interviewing. They could do some coaching on interviewing, and they could really help see people, let's say, to do this to get more traffic. So it's really one of these things that an internet coach could find helpful because they don't have to prepare all the stuff for it, right?
You mean my content?
Your
Yeah,
content, right?
if someone wants to, people typically buy my content for two reasons. One, they want to learn it themselves, and two, they want to teach other people about how to do it. So if someone wants to teach this, they just take my course, they edit it to fit the needs of their market, which can be mainly just rebranding it, putting a new
Right,
title on and editing a few words here and there in the sales copy, and then they can deliver it in different formats. Some people take the content and make it into videos. They'll take the slides and record them as a slideshow video. Some people do it as a whole ebook. Some people do make it a live workshop, like they'll go to local meetups or small business groups and teach either the whole thing or part of it, and then gather leads from that. So they'll be building their business that way, using the content either as a paid product or course or to get leads in. Especially coaches do that a lot.
mm-hmm. No, that's very cool. Well, if you're listening and you want to pick up this course that Sharon is talking about, I'm going to suggest you go over to gainmindshare.com/interviewing. And if you do pick it up, send me a note and let me know. And I'm actually going to give you a course that I did called Local Podcast Mogul. And it's about interviewing. So I'll add that in if you pick up Sharon's course. So just send me a note, let me know that you did, and I'll be happy to do that for you. And maybe you're listening to this interview and it's not April anymore. Maybe you found it in the search engines, or you're listening to a YouTube video. Um, I want you to go over to gainmindshare.com and /content sparks, and you'll see what else Sharon has there to offer. She does really high quality stuff, and as you can see, um, she's kind of coming from a place that she understands how people learn, and I think that's important because would you say, Sharon, one of the things that you've probably figured out after having done this for a little while, it's sort of one thing to know content, it's another thing to be able to teach it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's figuring out the um, the learning objectives, what you need people to learn how to do, and step by step working them through that. And that's not that easy to do. Anyone can write an ebook and just go through, but making it a true learning experience is a whole different story. And that's where I come from. Corporations companies hired us to do that. We're not the ones delivering it. We are creating it for people to deliver, coming from that learning experience. Yep.
Yep, right on,
Mm-hmm.
right on. So, well, Sharyn, I definitely appreciate you sitting down to talk to us, and this is really going to be helpful for folks who are just kind of getting into the game. You said something very important. I want you to kind of, I want folks to kind of focus on, which is to determine what it is that the market wants before you start creating. Determine what people's needs are, before you start the process of trying to figure out what it is you're going to bring to the marketplace. I think that was very good insight for everybody who is here today. So with that, everybody, again, you can find out more about Sharyn at gainmindshare.com/content sparks, all one word. Or, again, if it's April and you're still looking to take advantage of Sharyn's interview product, you can go over to gainmindshare.com/interviewing. And if you send me a note that you bought it, I'll send you a copy of my course free of charge. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you very much for being here. Sharyn, thank you so much again. Have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care.
Thanks, Charles.